Who possesses the greatest influence globally? The leader of history's vastest dominion. The individual seated alone within his military tent on the battlefield. Consider Marcus Aurelius. This man, whose soldiers rest, but who himself pens thoughts by candlelight. Not strategic plans of war, but introspections on the human condition. You hold sway over your internal state, not over external occurrences. Grasp this truth, and you will discover inner fortitude. During those hours illuminated by candlelight, he grasped that your internal stronghold is more significant than any connection you share with others. Your emotional self-control surpasses the importance of romantic affirmation. Your personal duty takes precedence over your yearning for another individual. Yet, our society, fixated on marriage, deems us eccentric. We are led to believe that remaining unmarried signifies a flaw, that emotional turmoil is merely passion, and dependence is simply love. Marcus Aurelius would undoubtedly brand this notion as utterly foolish, and he would be correct. Continue with me, and you will understand why matrimony undermines inner tranquility, and inner tranquility, as taught by the Stoics, is the sole pursuit of genuine worth. Welcome to contemporary romance. Perpetual swiping, unpredictable emotional shifts, incessant worry about message replies, sudden disappearances, vague engagements leading nowhere. Your consciousness, the very thing you genuinely command, transforms into a battleground influenced by another's moods, choices, and impulses. Marcus Aurelius encountered actual battlefields and deemed them less complex to navigate than an untamed human heart. Observe current relational conduct. Individuals compulsively check their mobile devices. They scrutinize every utterance for hidden meanings. They devise intricate explanations for a 3-hour delay in response, as opposed to 2. And at the day's close, they label it love. But is it authentically love? Have you ever posed this question to yourself? Because this is not love. It is mental enslavement. Your thoughts become engrossed by another person's actions. Your peace hinges on their disposition. Your day is either ruined by their aloofness or invigorated by their attention. Marcus penned, "How much distress one avoids by not observing what one's neighbor says or does, but only what one does oneself." Nevertheless, in relationships, we enact the opposite. We become investigators of another's emotional state while neglecting the governance of our own minds. We relinquish the very source of our power, our internal authority. The emperor who conquered the known world comprehended a truth most individuals never learn. The only domain deserving of conquest is your own consciousness. The only triumph that truly matters is the victory over your own unruly emotions. The only realm that genuinely belongs to you is the expanse between your ears. But modern relationships, marriage, dating, transform you into an exile from your own mind. Here lies the distinction between the Stoic and the average person. The Stoic commands emotions. The average person is governed by them. People mistakenly believe Stoicism entails suppressing feelings or becoming detached. This is incorrect. It involves emotional discipline, experiencing emotions fully, while intentionally selecting your reaction. And relationships provide the ultimate trial for this discipline. When alone, your emotions are solely yours. You experience anger, you analyze it, comprehend it, and choose your response. You feel sorrow, you embrace it, learn from it, and navigate through it with grace. However, in relationships, your emotions intertwine with another's emotional state. Their difficult day becomes your anxiety. Their remoteness becomes your insecurity. Their moods become your master. Marcus Aurelius dedicated his life to cultivating an unshakable inner calm amidst external circumstances. He wrote, "You are an actor in a play. If it's brief, then it's brief. If it's lengthy, then it's lengthy. If he wants you to portray a pauper, play even that role skillfully. And similarly, if a cripple or a public official or a private citizen." Yet most individuals in relationships become poor performers. They overlook their agency in choosing their role. They permit another to direct their emotional display. They surrender their script and then wonder why the drama feels uncontrollable. The single individual embracing Stoicism possesses a considerable advantage. They can observe their emotions without the added complexity of another's emotional turmoil. They can cultivate emotional resilience without constant provocation from a partner's unresolved issues. This is why Marcus referred to solitude as the philosopher's laboratory. In solitude, you learn to differentiate between what you can command and what you cannot. You discover that your contentment is not reliant on anyone else's conduct. You construct what the Stoics termed the inner citadel, an unwavering core of peace that no external event can disrupt. But there is an even more profound benefit to emotional discipline. When you master your own emotions, you become impervious to manipulation. You cannot be made to feel guilty, showered with overwhelming affection to exert control, or emotionally manipulated. You become what Marcus called a citizen of the world, independent, sovereign, and self-governing. This brings us to a fundamental misunderstanding many people harbor about their life's purpose. An individual's value is directly tied to the significance of their aspirations. Marcus Aurelius recognized that the essence of life stems from obligation, moral principles, and positive contributions rather than fleeting pleasures or passionate romances. However, contemporary society and the institution of marriage have completely inverted this perspective. We are encouraged to prioritize our feelings over our actions, to pursue fleeting happiness instead of enduring meaning, and to seek gratification over profound purpose. Consequently, marriages often become the ultimate diversion from what truly matters, realizing one's full potential. Observe how individuals sacrifice their ambitions for the sake of relationships. They abandon their fitness regimens because their partner disapproves. They forego career advancements to avoid long-distance partnerships. They compromise their core beliefs to maintain harmony. They lose their identity striving to please another. Marcus frequently encountered these temptations. As emperor, he could have indulged in countless luxuries, chased any romantic fantasy, and surrounded himself with sycophants and diversions. Instead, he opted for duty. He dedicated his life to serving something greater than his immediate whims. He oversaw the construction of roads, enacted laws, and safeguarded the empire, not because it was enjoyable, but because it was morally correct. This embodies what the Stoics termed the discipline of desire. Preferring what is righteous over what merely feels good. Choosing what enhances one's character over what satisfies one's temporary urges. Constructing a life of substance instead of one driven by sensation. Being unattached compels this discipline. One cannot use romantic excitement as a narcotic to sidestep the arduous task of self-improvement. One cannot distract oneself with relationship drama when one should be cultivating their career, their physical well-being, and their intellect. You are forced to confront a question that unnerves most individuals. Quote 4. This is where genuine greatness emerges, not from the affirmation of another person, but from the daily commitment to become worthy of one's own esteem. Marcus mused, "Cease debating about what constitutes a good person. Be one." Yet, achieving goodness is impossible when perpetually seeking approval from a spouse. This leads us to the most vital Stoic practice of all. No location offers more tranquility or freedom from disruption than one's own inner world. This might be considered the most radical assertion in all of philosophy. In a world consumed by external stimuli, Marcus Aurelius declared that your internal landscape is the most captivating destination one could ever explore. Nevertheless, most individuals are terrified of their own company. They require constant noise, incessant interaction, and perpetual validation. They would rather endlessly scroll through their phone than engage with their own thoughts. They would prefer remaining in an unsatisfactory relationship than confronting the stillness of self-contemplation. Why? Because they genuinely do not understand who they are. They have spent so much time defining themselves through the perceptions of others. their parents' approval, their friends' viewpoints, their partner's desires, that they have never truly encountered themselves. The Stoics believed that self-knowledge was the bedrock of all wisdom. Know thyself was not merely ancient counsel, it was the initial stride towards liberation. But true self-discovery is unattainable while constantly adapting to someone else. In relationships, one is always subtly performing, slightly accommodating, gently molding oneself into what one perceives the other person desires. This isn't necessarily deceit, it's a natural human adaptive mechanism, but it obscures self-awareness. Marcus dedicated hours daily to solitude, scrutinizing his thoughts, questioning his motivations, and refining his character. His meditations were not penned for an audience, they were intimate dialogues with himself. At dawn, when you struggle to leave your bed, remind yourself, I must arise to fulfill my duties as a human being. This is the declaration of someone who precisely knows his identity and his purpose, not because he was told by another, but because he undertook the arduous work of self-discovery. And this introspective labor can only occur in isolation. When you are alone, you hear your authentic voice beneath all the societal conditioning. You unearth your genuine values beneath all the borrowed opinions. You uncover your true aspirations beneath all the external demands. You begin to ask the pivotal questions. What do I truly believe? What would I do if nobody were watching? What legacy do I wish to create? What kind of individual do I aspire to become? These questions do not yield facile answers, but they offer genuine ones. And you can only uncover them when you cease seeking validation from others and commence seeking truth from within yourself. Marcus termed this the view from above, the capacity to perceive one's life with clarity, devoid of the distortions wrought by immediate emotions or societal pressures. Now, let's address a common misinterpretation concerning Stoicism and affection. The Stoics were not adverse to love. Rather, they opposed unrestrained attachment. There is a profound distinction. Pure love desires the utmost well-being for another individual. Attachment, conversely, seeks another person to bolster one's own sense of self-worth. Furthermore, what many label as love is frequently just disguised attachment. Observe individuals when they believe they are deeply in love. Their thoughts revolve incessantly around the other person. Their emotional state hinges on the other person's regard. Their choices are guided by what will please the other person, rather than what fosters their personal development. Marcus would have termed this a subjugation to external forces, permitting one's internal state to be swayed by elements beyond one's command. You possess authority over your mind, not over external events. However, in relationships driven by attachment, you willingly forfeit that authority. You allow another's conduct to dictate your emotional condition. The emperor grasped a truth that most individuals in love never discover. Your inner sanctuary, your tranquility, your objective, your sense of self is too precious to entrust to another's command. The moment you require another person to feel whole, you have relinquished your autonomy. This does not advocate for becoming cold or unemotional. It signifies loving from a position of strength, not fragility, from deliberate choice, not compulsion, from abundance, not deficiency. And herein lies love's paradox. When you don't require someone, you are genuinely capable of loving them without constraint. When your contentment isn't contingent on their actions, you can value them without attempting to control them. When you are complete within yourself, you can offer yourself without diminishing your essence. Marcus cherished his wife Phaenina, even knowing her infidelity. This was not born of weakness, but of profound strength. He opted for love over attachment, virtue over victimhood, dignity over turmoil. Yet, this caliber of love is unattainable when emotional dependency exists. Dependency breeds apprehension. Apprehension engenders control. Control leads to contention. Contention erodes love. A single person who practices Stoicism has the chance to break free from this pattern. They can learn to love unattached by first learning to be complete independently. They can cultivate genuine appreciation for acquaintances, relatives, and even unfamiliar faces, unburdened by the complexities of romantic desire. This is what the Stoics referred to as preferred indifference. You may desire love in your existence while remaining unconcerned with whether it actually materializes. You can value connections without being shackled by their outcomes. You can relish camaraderie without relying on it for your well-being. The greatest advantage of solitude is that it serves as a rigorous training ground for the ultimate skill you will ever acquire: self-mastery. Cease wasting time debating what a virtuous individual should embody. Simply be one. However, most people spend their single years engaged in internal debates about their lack of a partner. They scrutinize their perceived flaws. They strategize on how to enhance their appeal. They postpone living their true lives until they find their soulmate. Marcus would have deemed this a monumental waste of precious time and mental energy. Your single years are not a prelude to real life. They are real life. Each morning you awaken presents an opportunity to embody virtue. Every ordeal you encounter is a chance to fortify your character. Every period of solitude is a profound gift for nurturing the most significant relationship you will ever have: the one with yourself. The Stoics championed what they termed the discipline of action, aligning one's daily conduct with one's highest principles, regardless of external conditions. This endeavor is considerably simpler when you are not constantly diverted by relationship dynamics. You can establish morning routines without negotiating another's schedule. You can pursue challenging ambitions without fretting over their impact on a partner. You can make demanding choices based on what is just, rather than on maintaining harmony. Consider it analogous to developing your philosophical fortitude. Each day you choose discipline over impulse, you grow stronger. Each time you discover contentment in your own company, you become more self-reliant. Every moment you invest in personal growth, rather than seeking external affirmation, you become more valuable, not to others, but to yourself. Marcus spent years on military campaigns, often isolated with his thoughts and obligations. He leveraged this solitude to become the most formidable individual in the world, not merely politically, but profoundly psychologically. He constructed an inner citadel, an unshakable core of composure, purpose, and perspective that no external force could destabilize. Not military defeats, not senatorial critique, not even betrayals from those he held dear. This internal stronghold is what renders someone genuinely captivating. Not their craving for validation, but their independence from it. Not their reliance, but their self-sufficiency. Not their emotional volatility, but their emotional fortitude. And this is the outcome of cultivating such inner strength. You evolve into what the Stoics called the sage, an individual so perfectly centered that they become a bedrock of stability for others. People are drawn to your serenity, your conviction, your unyielding sense of self. But this allure differs from the desperate magnetism of neediness. This draws people in because you have something valuable to contribute, not because you're looking to gain something. This leads us to the fundamental Stoic insight concerning human connections. Consider what Marcus Aurelius understood about affection, interpersonal bonds, and contentment. A truly happy existence requires very little. Everything depends on your internal mindset, on your personal outlook. Reflect on that once more. To achieve a happy life, very little is necessary. There's no need for a soulmate, for romantic fulfillment, for another's affection, validation, or presence, just your mental attitude. This isn't about overly optimistic thinking or superficial self-help concepts. This represents the most challenging and practical wisdom ever uncovered. Your internal state is entirely subject to your control, and that inner state dictates the overall quality of your existence. However, here's what this truly signifies for relationships. If you find contentment being alone, you can also find happiness with a partner. If you are whole by yourself, you can genuinely enhance another individual. When you don't require love, you can offer it without reservation. A person who has established their inner fortitude does not enter relationships out of desperation. They engage from a place of abundance. They don't seek completion. Instead, they offer enrichment. They don't require rescuing. They provide strength. Marcus referred to this as the view from above, the capacity to perceive your life with absolute clarity, transcending immediate feelings and societal pressures. From this elevated perspective, you comprehend that the profound connection you've been yearning for with someone else is, in fact, the connection you must cultivate with yourself. And once you forge that bond, when you become your own most trusted confidant, your own wellspring of wisdom, your own source of tranquility, something remarkable unfolds. You come to realize that you never needed anyone else to make you complete, because completion was never the objective. Personal growth was the aim. Character development was the aim. Virtue was the aim. When you stop searching for happiness in relationships and begin cultivating it within yourself, you transform into the kind of individual who naturally attracts genuine love. This isn't because you're striving to be appealing, but because you are authentically content. The most beneficial action you can take isn't finding someone to complete you. It's developing yourself into someone who requires no completion. It's becoming so rooted in your own virtue, so clear about your life's purpose, so at peace with your own company, that any relationship you opt for becomes an enhancement to an already fulfilling life, rather than a remedy for an incomplete one. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire, yet he discovered his paramount triumph in governing himself. Therefore, it is now your moment to govern yourself by avoiding the gravest error of marrying.